Presents.
Ruby glass catches light and puts twinkle in the eye of the beholder. I think you'd better take a seat, young lady. Hi, I'm Dada Nabanilananda, also known as the Monk Dude, and I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, and I live locally here near Palo Alto. And I'm here today to talk to Lessa Bouchard, who is a performer and a producer with the Archive Ensemble.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Dada. Yes, I'm excited to be here with Jump, one of our book sprite characters. Thank you so much.
So you're putting on this wonderful play about things found in books.
Yes, stuff found in books. In fact, that article that you just read a little bit from was something that was found in a book donated to the Friends of the Palo Alto Library. And I was given this lovely box of stuff found in books by them, by the Friends of the Palo Alto Library, to use as writing prompts for this play.
I thought this idea was really cool. I mean, the whole play was inspired by these bits of, these are literally things that people left in books that they donated to the library, and you built a whole story around them. And it has this kind of feeling of discovering all these secrets with stories behind them. So tell me a bit more about the story behind the story of this performance.
Yes, well, I've been a bookseller off and on all of my life. I worked at John King Books in Detroit as a young person, and worked at various borders across the country, and finally ended up working part-time at the one on University, and was looking at all of my books and how we were going to fit them into our one-bedroom little apartment here in Palo Alto, and my relationship with books and media. I was wearing a little pin that said, you know, e-reader certified, as we were trying to sell Kobos right before borders closed. But this lovely book, The Case for Books, came out right around that time as well. And Robert Darnton has a phrase in here about the instability of texts.
Like, sort of like this.
Yes. Yeah, and here's the little border sticker.
And the sort of borders closing and everything being digitized, yeah.
Yeah, so, but his point of view is that information is inherently unstable, and how we communicate is constantly changing. And so I thought that was really a very interesting point of view, and I created these swaying bookshelves as a sort of representation of that, and then immediately wanted to create a performance in that space with these swaying bookshelves. And with that in mind, and then this box of stuff found in books, that was enough for the Fool's Fury's Factory Parts program. They have basically a grant application that you can do to participate in this new play production workshop series. And they said yes. A couple of my wonderful friends signed on to work with me on this. And then Dragon Theater in they were originally in Palo Alto and then moved to Redwood City, and they have the Second Stages program. And once they heard that we were developing a play, myself and my friend Susie, they said, come on, be a part of our first Second Stage series. And what the Second Stage series is a new program that they have since second year now, where they invite people to produce their passion projects, whether it's a previously produced play or a new work. And ours was, I think, the only new work of that season. It was really fun.
So they're very friendly dragons.
Yes, very friendly dragons. And I have a little bit of the video that we did, of the documentation video from the show to share with you.
What do we do with a man
they go over there. Well,
This is the Unbound Center and the
ephemerarium. You have to ask.
Did you find it?
But you let go.
Did it find you? Any life, you will.
All my love, Alvin.
What's that?
I found it in a book. And there's something about where and how you find things. What's next to what?
Tuck all this away, and then everyone is free to explore new things without entanglements. Let go, move on. Some things are best forgotten.
So free. I'll find a place for you, Alvin and Ruby. There's a place for everything.
That's right. Everything has its place. You get a little bit of a chance here to see the relationship between these two sister archivists, Ella, my character, Ella, as well as I also played Jump, and Susie plays my younger sister, Lucy, as well as Sprite Vertigo. So Susie plays Lucy, who has this ability to travel into photographs, and her big sister, Ella, is very worried about this being dangerous because they lost their mother to such goings on. And let's take a look at a little bit more of the video here, and it'll give you a little bit more of the story.
Still creatures just have to exist in such an organized fashion.
Where do you think all this comes from? Daniel Lieber.
How quaint.
Who do you think they are doing this for?
We help them find what they need to find, do we? Yes. What do you mean?
We set them up.
Oh no, we help them find just what they need.
She has a right to know.
Know what? Your version of the truth. You know she doesn't remember any of it.
She's been lying to me. I was supposed to find these.
The only thing in the world that would have stopped her was worrying about us.
I'm going to explore on my own. Did you find it?
What you needed to find.
I hope you find your moment. Did it fill you in?
A glimmer of the past.
A window.
A visit.
A memory.
A moment.
You've described your work as an evolving collaboration. So I want to hear something about the other people that worked with you on this.
Yeah, so I was talking about Susie, of course, but there are some shyer individuals who aren't on stage that you didn't see in
Shyer
that
than you?
video. Joyce McClure has been really a rock throughout the whole production process. She's an amazing writer and friend and hosted us many times for writing parties at her home. And then also Nancy Herxthal, who is a librarian at the Boston Public Library for 20 years and an amazing designer and creator. And she and Susie were really the powerhouses behind the creation of the book Sprite Mask. So there was quite a team. I was proud to have gotten to participate in the creation of them, but they really led the charge. And then, of course, so Susie Danzig is one of my best friends. I met her in Palo Alto when I first moved here. We have a fun story about how we first met. Susie was going to Johnson Park with the kids. She has 2 children, Luke and Mackenzie. Luke was maybe 5 and Mackenzie was still in a stroller at the time. And I was just coming home from a coffee shop and was being chased by this raccoon At first I thought it was a small dog, but then it turns out there was a raccoon chasing me down the street. And as I was trying to get away from this crazy animal, I noticed that she was coming down the street with her kids and said, "Don't go that way, there's a crazy raccoon." And she said, "Oh, okay." And we didn't know each other at all, but then later that night I was telling the story at Dragon Theater when it was still in Palo Alto to one of my fellow actors during the rehearsal of a production that I was in, and she said, "My friend Susie just told me the same story." And so it's just the beginning of the coincidences that have kind of brought Susie and I to work together. It was meant to be. So once I, was started talking to her about this project, she came right on board, and she worked with Lunatique Fantastique, which is an amazing puppet company that worked out of the Marsh in San Francisco for many years. And she's a very physical performer, as you can probably see. And also she brought in Bill Olson, who is another amazing physical performer that worked with Lunatique Fantastique. And he came in, originally was going to come in as Mr. Glass, but then ended up trading places with Evan Schumacher, Kokila Schumacher, who is an amazing writer and got married last year. So like with all of that going on, we kind of switched it up a little bit. Bill hopped in and took over the role of Tom. And he is an amazing Alexander instructor as well as a physical performer, directs for the children's theaters in the area and has his own company, 2+2, does some really cute work. And then, of course, rounding out our cast is Richard Newton, who halfway through the writing process, I had open studios at Cubberley. I'm part of the Cubberley Artist Studios program for the city of Palo Alto, and we have this open studios thing every 6 months or so, and he wandered into the studio and was immediately drawn to the masks and said, "I have to know more, tell me about this." And we just got into this really wonderful conversation for like 45 minutes, and it became very clear that he was meant to be a part of the ensemble. He's a director and a performer. He also works with horses. He does Reiki on horses. He's an amazing, wonderful, he has wonderful energy and is very giving and was very inspired by working with such chance operations, like this.
Well, your archival ensemble sounds fascinating. You've got puppets and children's theatre, and there's all this stuff going on in the community that I didn't know about, so I think it's nice to have a chance to let people know about what's going on. Yeah. You're a very interactive kind of performer, you engage the audience, and I'd like you to give maybe a few hints to other performers, because I know a lot of live performers love to engage the audience because it makes it come alive. So tell us some secrets.
So one of the most important things in audience interaction is matching energy. So listening, of course, and if someone is a little bit reticent, perhaps, and maybe hanging back, often the best approach might not be to, bounce on them. Well, sometimes that's fun too. If they seem like maybe they're a little shy but open. But generally the best approach is to match their energy as much as you can and kind of, meet their level, sort of mirroring things that you learn in communication classes kind of apply there. So if they have, closed off body language, if you match that and even exaggerate it a little bit, sometimes that sort of works to coax them along into your world.
Very nice. It sounds a little bit like neurolinguistic programming, but done with love.
I hope. Yeah, exactly.
Very
There's
nice.
a little of that. Yeah.
So you're doing all these beautiful creative things, but I can't quite figure out how you're how to make a living doing this.
Exactly. Well, you heard me mention having worked for Borders part-time. I've also temped a bit. I had a great time temping for Stanford's Graduate School of Business, which was very inspirational, and grant writing. And also, we did some crowdfunding for this show. And of the support that we had from Dragon and from Fool's Fury, if they really provided a lot of technical support to us in the form of rehearsal space. You know, we didn't have to rent rehearsal space, which can be pretty expensive and prohibitive. And the actual performances that we did at No Space and at ACT Costume Shop during the Fool's Furies series, we tested out little pieces of material along the way. And so we didn't have to pay for any of that. They supported us with the site and with providing a technician. So we had to come up with all of the props and setting ourselves. But so every little bit helps, you know. Dragon provided some seed money as part of the...
From the treasure, the Dragon's treasure.
Yes, from the treasure trove that Dragon has. They are a 501c3, by the way, of accepting donations, I'm sure. So, yeah, they provided a little bit of seed money so that we could pay for some designers to do more work and for our technicians, and to pay ourselves a little bit. It was mostly more of a stipend, but, you know, we're trying to grow a new work, and that's how that's kind of pulling different sources, you know, together, a diverse funding stream.
Well, sounds like it works.
Yeah.
So what is your, I know with a bit of, grace, what are you really trying to do? What's your real objective with all of this, your creative work?
With my creative work is to create a conversation. So that's part of the importance to me of this being an open work, you know, rather than it being something that's just my voice, is working with different people, different designers, different points of view. It was really wonderful to me knitting the script together, all of these different notes and voices and perspectives, and it was really fun to sort of lose track of, where did that come from? Whose joke was that? I don't know. It just sort of is after a while. Some parts you can say, oh, that whole section, Susie wrote that. Or this whole section was, this little section here is Joyce. Or this section, you know, having a conversation about issues that are important to us and dear to us, and for us, you know, talking about our books and what we hold on to and let go of was a fun conversation to have together.
So are we going to have a chance to see the show again? Because you've done the live performance. Is it going to come live again?
I'm very excited to potentially have a web series come out of this at Bell's Books. It'll be set at Bell's Books in Palo Alto. And hopefully we'll be able to entice more people to participate in some writing workshops with us. We have a website. The arc-hive.org website is where you can find more information and sign up with us. But also touring, because the show is so philosophical, and the liveness of it is very important in that we're exploring what's going on with the move from physical space and digital space, and we're exploring aura and the aura of objects, what makes an object, a physical object, different from a digital object, and all of that. So we feel that the live performance is really important.
Yeah, because the book is real and the live performance is real, and so much of our experience of the world is digital nowadays.
Right, which is wonderful. You know, it's an amazing opportunity to allow people to enter into the work before we might even get there to their community. You know, so yeah, there's.
Well, I'd love to see it live. I hope I get a chance to. Yeah, what would you advise artists, people who've got a sort of a real passion for doing something creative, that, you know, as you've done, you've managed to make a career of it, or you're building a career of it? What's your kind of one piece of advice you'd leave listeners with if they want to do something similar?
Listening. I think that's my biggest challenge, and I hope that I can continue to build and grow my listening skills. That's really the biggest thing that I recommend to other people, because it's the thing that I'm trying to work on myself. So I think that kind of dovetails a little bit with some of the things that you've talked about in
Like?
your work.
I don't remember what I talked about.
You were talking about the book that you just came out with.
Do I get to say something about my book?
Yes,
Well, this is about you.
But we have 8 minutes to fill.
Oh, right.
So I think that we should
Well,
talk about your book.
I'll say something briefly, but I want you to hear something more about what you're thinking of for the future. But
Okay.
since you've
Yeah,
me.
I'm curious about
okay,
this.
so
because-
I just I just finished my book this week. I mean, really finished. It's actually at the printers.
Yes.
I've thought that I'd nearly finished it for 3 years, but it's a lot more work than I realized. And it's called Real Dragons Don't Cry. It's a fantasy comedy for young adults.
And you said something about it starting with an interaction with a young woman.
Well, yeah, it's amazing how stories begin. I mean, I started as me telling a story to a little girl 30 years ago,
right.
making up these characters.
So this is this is where it's kind of similar to what I'm talking about, listening. That's why I asked you about this story, because you were listening and paying attention to this little girl.
Oh yeah, it was all
and
about the
were
relationship.
open
It was,
to that relationship and that interaction, and then it evolved into this beautiful, creative, this experience. You know,
well,
over
look
time.
at the books that have started as telling stories to children. Lord of the Ring, well, The Hobbit,
Yes.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So it meant a lot to me when Susie's kids and their friends came to the show and were completely engaged in the show.
Yeah.
And you know, when kids of that kind of young adult, you know, that like that, I kind of like thinking about the show as sort of a Harry Potter meets X-Files.
Oh, that's cool.
You know,
You got to put that in your tagline, you know.
Exactly.
Harry
I mean,
Potter
it was a
meets
little
the X-Files.
hyperbolic, but that's, you know, this is really sort of the, you know, the energy that we're kind of going for. I think that they can really sense when you're being true to the ideas, you know. So
Yeah, well, and that again is,
meaningful
you
to
know,
me.
ties in completely with your theme about, you know, it being a genuine thing, not something created through artifice.
Right. Yeah.
You know, which is not always the case between sort of real world and digital, but sometimes it is.
Right. It's, yeah. The digital space is interesting to me. We did play with that in the play a bit. You know, we had projections and a little bit of Jump. When Jump would give a speech, there was a screen that looked like the notes from your iPhone, and it would anticipate what the character was going to say, what Jump was saying, and Jump would look back and be kind of creeped out by this interactive text that was going on.
Sounds so clever.
And, you know, playing with the predictive text and, you know, all of that. So, you know, we got a little bit of that, you know, conversation about what's happening right now with technology into the script.
Yeah, well, that illustrates your point
Yeah.
even more.
I hope so.
Great.
So,
Well,
okay.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. I know it's going to continue after this show.
Oh, well, thank
we've
you
got a
so
million
much.
things to talk
yeah,
about.
I hope
I love
so.
what you're doing.
And yeah, I hope that we get to work together some more. That you would join us maybe for some of our writing would be really.
Well, I'm a writer. I like writing comedy, and you've obviously got a great sense of humor. And well, what do you have? Speaking of which, have you got something sort of next project in mind?
Really, this one has been kind of all engrossing, but I also like to work with sculpturally, you know, playing around with LCD screens and that kind of physical computing. So there's a little of that,
So you're going to build a story around that, you think?
and maybe eventually. So
You could build a story around what happens in this studio.
yeah, maybe. Great, cool. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this with you guys.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Okay. So this right here
Oh yeah,
is
that was something you said was special.
Yes, actually.
You want to read it to me?
This is the first iteration of Vertigo. This was an exercise that I did in one of the Fool's Fury drop-in workshops. And they have these workshops like once a week in San Francisco. You can show up and
You going to read it?
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening in the booth.
Just read it. Just read it.
My name is Vertigo. I am the one who always sees the future. One thing you don't know about me is that I am sensitive to light. The landscape of my childhood was fraught and looming. One day I will break free and escape like a balloon, a mylar balloon lifting away.
Fabulous.